Here's example 10 of using sum and difference formulas. So this is going to be an establish the identity problem. So the identity we want to establish is cosine of a plus b plus the cosine of a minus b equals 2 times the cosine of a times the cosine of b. Okay. So we talked a lot about doing problems like this with identities in some earlier videos. We did a lot of examples. And remember, the thing you want to always keep in mind is that you should always start on just one side and only manipulate that one side, try to make it look like the other side. Leave the other side completely alone. Don't do anything with that. Only work on just one side. Okay. So one of the other rules was to start on the more complicated side. So here, 2 cosine A, cosine B, not terribly complicated. This side actually isn't all that complicated either, but notice that we do have sum angle and difference angle in here, and we are talking about the sum and difference formulas. So if we go back to our formula sheet here, we see that there are some nice ways to simplify this. So there's not a whole lot we can do to simplify this on the right-hand side, but on the left-hand side with this cosine of A plus B, cosine of A minus B, we see that those look pretty much just like these two formulas here. Okay, so we're going to have to use these to simplify a little bit. Okay, so you might think that, okay, now we have all these extra formulas here. Oh, and by the way, if you want to copy this formula sheets, check the video description. There's a link in there. You can click that link and get a copy of this. So you might think that these establish the identity problems might be a little worse or more difficult than the other ones we looked at. But actually, they really won't be too bad. For the most part, once you use the formula from the sheet here, the rest of it might just fall into place almost right away, unless you have something really complicated going on, which we'll probably see 1 or 2 examples like that later on. But anyway, so for now we're just going to follow the principles. So remember, for establish the identity problems, there's only one thing that you should always do, and the one thing you should always do is just start on one side and then work on that side, try to make it look like the other. Okay, so anyway, if we just jump right in here, so cosine of A plus B plus cosine of A minus B. Let's see if we can get a different one here. Okay, so if we go to our sheet here, so cosine of A plus B, so cosine of alpha plus beta. So notice these formulas are in terms of alphas and betas, not A's and B's, but that makes literally absolutely no difference at all. That does not matter, not one tiny bit, whether you call them A and B or alpha and beta or theta and phi, whatever you want to call them, X and Y, it does not matter at all. The point is cosine of one angle plus another angle. So that's going to be cosine A, cosine B. Okay, this guy right here, in terms of A and B, it's going to be cosine A, cosine B minus sine A, sine B. So let's go ahead and write that down. So this right here is cosine A, cosine B minus sine A, sine B. Okay, so that's a B. And then we have plus, so kind of running out of room already, so we'll just have to squish it in. Now cosine of A minus B, so now we use the second formula here. So again, it's in terms of alphas and betas, but it does not matter at all. So if we express it in terms of A and B, then cosine A minus B is going to be cosine A cosine B plus sine A sine B. Okay, so that's going to be cosine A cosine B plus sine A sine B. Alright, so let's go ahead and see what simplifies. So cosine A cosine B blah 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 plus cosine A cosine B, so that's 2 cosine A cosine B. And what else happens? So that takes care of this and this. So what's left? Minus sine A sine B blah 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 plus sine A sine B. So actually these cancel, and we're just left with just this. So that's actually it. So that's the whole thing, and that's what we wanted to show, right? Was that this equals 2 cosine A cosine B, and that's it. So we see that it's probably one of the simpler types of problems that we can have with establishing identities using trig formulas. So again, we just applied the formulas, and then it pretty much just fell into place naturally. But you might have more complicated problems where you have to do more complicated techniques later on after you use the formulas. And we'll probably see some examples like that coming up. Anyway, that's example 10 of using sum and difference formulas, and this is an establish the identity problem, and it was relatively straightforward. Just use the formulas from the sheets and then simplify, and that's it. Okay? So that's example 10.